Oh, here we go again. We have already developed our weekly theme for the week on the channel. This week, the mainstream media is all about feelings and victimization. You see it with how the media is covering the abortion issue in the Supreme Court. How dare the Supreme Court take away the rights of women? This is misogyny. These poor women are victims of their circumstance. What? Victims of their circumstance? Who in the hell put them in those circumstances? Abortion's never really been a key issue for me for obvious reasons. Me personally, I will never have an abortion. Contrary to what social justice warriors want you to believe, I'm a man and men can't have babies. It's not physically possible. I don't feel like abortion affects society the way that other issues do. Now, with that being said, in most cases, I feel abortion is completely unnecessary, especially in 2022. There are so many methods of contraception. There are so many ways to prevent pregnancy. You shouldn't need an abortion. If I can make it 37 years without getting someone pregnant, others should be able to do the same thing if they don't want kids. Now, I've been sitting on the two stories I'm about to share with you for almost a week now. Sometimes I like to cover stories as they're breaking the news cycle, but in other cases, I like to give them time to breathe. I like to give the media time to react. With these two stories from the NFL draft last weekend, I wanted to give the mainstream media and social media ample time to react to them. There was plenty of fake outrage with one of these stories. I was waiting for the fake outrage to develop with the other. It never did. I say on here all the time, there is a clear agenda in the mainstream media. I know it may be surprising to my guys in the audience under 25 years old, but the media used to be all about hard news. They would present you with the facts, let the viewer decide their own opinion. The media we have today is all opinion and agenda driven. Most of it's complete bullshit. What they do, they present you with enough factual information to make it believable, then they spin the facts to fit their narrative. The easiest way to get you to believe a lie is to stick the lie between two truths. That is exactly what the media does. The mainstream media, they have been at war with the NFL for the better part of a decade now. We've covered this war extensively here on the channel. It started with concussions, player safety, Colin Kaepernick, the NFL's not woke enough, bias against black quarterbacks, bias against black head coaches. The last 2 years, the media's been trying to convince you that the NFL is racist. It's modern day slavery, damn it. Last weekend, they tried to use the NFL draft to prove to you how evil and racist the NFL really is. We're going to start with Rapaport and Matt Corral and how the media covered the story. Matt Corral was expected to be a late first-round draft pick. Yeah, that didn't happen. He ended up falling into the third round. Why? Now, you can explain Aaron Rodgers dropping to the late first round in 2005, but an expected first-round quarterback dropping 2 rounds? How the hell do you explain that? NFL insider Rapaport provided the explanation. Roll the film.
But this is about a lot more than that. There's a lot of work required here to make sure they are comfortable off the field with the person. He dealt with a multitude of issues, including alcohol and related issues. He admitted publicly to battling depression. He has had unreliable behavior off the field, and he really struggled in some interviews with teams.
Just an FYI, if that clip was removed, I got hit with another copyright strike. These major media companies, they have been killing me lately with copyright issues. I cannot continue just giving them my money. So if the clip was removed, that's the reason. But anyway, you hopefully heard the reason from Rapaport. Matt Corral fell 2 rounds because of off-the-field issues. Alcohol abuse, depression, poor behavior. He didn't interview well during the combine, concerns around his mental health. Now, did you hear Rapaport mention anything about race? When NFL teams are looking for players and head coaches, the process is extensive. Just think about it. You're about to commit millions of dollars to this person. Aren't you going to dig into their background? Aren't you going to find out everything you can about them? The process of the NFL draft or hiring a head coach, it's similar to you and I buying a house. For us, buying a house is a huge commitment. Before you commit, you find out everything you can about the property, crime in the neighborhood, the school system. Do my neighbors have dogs that bark constantly? Is the street too busy for my kids to play on safely or play outside safely? Has there ever been water damage, roof leaks, termites, on and on and on you go? You know what question you don't ask? Hey, have black people ever lived here? If so, I don't want the house. Who fucking cares, right? It's the same thing in the NFL. The race of the coach, the race of the player is inconsequential. After his comments aired on NFL Network, Rapaport was met with some minor backlash. And when I say minor, I mean minor. If you Google Rapaport Matt Corral, you'll find that most of the mainstream media ignored the story. The backlash Rapaport did receive all centered around empathy. How dare he make those types of negative comments about Matt Corral? Rapaport should be sympathetic to his struggles, not call him out for it. Let me explain something to the dumb fucks. Rapaport is what used to be called a reporter. He's an NFL insider. What that means, his job is to acquire information, contact his sources to find out why Matt Corral dropped 2 rounds and report it to the public. It's called journalism. Rapaport wasn't giving his opinion. This wasn't anything personal against Matt Corral. Rapaport has sources inside NFL teams. They explained to him why Matt Corral fell down the draft board. He reported what teams said to the public. Simple as that. Like I said, the backlash against Rapaport was minimal. Now let me ask you this. If Matt Corral was a black player instead of a white player, or technically he's half white, half Japanese, but if you look at Matt Corral, you'd think he's a white dude. But either way, if he was a black player and Rapaport reported those same comments NFL teams made about him, do you think the media backlash would have been that minimal? I don't know. Let's compare it to the backlash with comments made about Jaquan Brisker. He was drafted in the 2nd round by the Bears. He hasn't even had a chance to report to the fucking facility yet, and the useless shitfucks in the mainstream media are already using him in their war against the NFL. Chris Prescott was a scout for the Chicago Bears, and I say was because the pussy-ass Bears fired his ass over the media backlash to these comments. You see, Chris Prescott is not allowed to say things like this. Look at this evil white man describing a young black player. I told you the NFL was modern-day slavery. Listen to what the wicked witch of the woke, Mina Kimes. Oh, my God. Mina Kimes. Could Mina Kimes be any more useless? In a league where stats are essentially meaningless, Mina Kimes has carved out a career based on statistics. This is the same woman that claimed wins and losses aren't a quarterback stat. Pretty sure in baseball, wins and losses count against pitchers. I'm also pretty sure wins and losses are the only thing quarterbacks are measured by. In the world of Mina Kimes, it's more important for a starting quarterback to be effective on 3rd and 4 with 3 minutes to go in the 3rd quarter, cumulus clouds in the sky, running an offset I formation, 64 degrees on the 3rd week of October, stadium filled to 98% capacity, the quarterback digesting his steak dinner from last night. To Mina Kimes, it's more important that he's great in that situation than for him to win the fucking game. What a fucking dunce fuck she is. Listen to what she said about Chris Prescott.
This very weekend, a Bears scout said out loud that part of the reason they liked Jaquan Brisker, the safety out of Penn State, was because he was, quote, PhD, poor, hungry, and desperate. And you hear that and you think, man, if that's what they're saying in public, what is being said behind closed doors? I mean, it's amazing that Brisker has overcome adversity and he should be championed. But to reduce his story to a draft attribute like a 40 time is to reduce who he is as a human being.
Oh, How dare you reduce his story to a 40 time? How dare he say this publicly? What hurtful things could he be saying privately? Oh. First of all, what the hell does it matter what's said privately? Private conversations are just that, private. But number two, Chris Prescott, other NFL teams, they are not dehumanizing players when they judge their physical attributes. They are not dehumanizing players when they interview them. It's called a job. When you apply for a job, they don't just read your resume, read your application, and hire you on the spot. They bring you in for an interview. They judge you based on your attributes, your interview skills, your skill set. Depending on the level of the job you're applying for, the hiring process could be extensive. They run background checks, they drug test you, they check your criminal history, they verify your work history, your education. Is any of that dehumanizing? No. So why is it so different when NFL teams do the same thing? The answer is it's not. But that doesn't fit the narrative of the mainstream media, which is the NFL is racist. Our favorite Star Trek virgin, Mike Freeman, he inserted his dinky into the woke ass too. I swear to you, the virgins in the media collude to figure out how they're going to twist the narrative. Because Mike Freeman said the same fucking thing as Mina Kimes. If Chris Prescott is saying this publicly, what could NFL teams be saying behind closed doors? I'm telling you, it's an orgy of discriminatory talk. You know what poor, hungry, and desperate means? It's another way of saying Jaquan Brisker is motivated. He's driven. In his case, he's likely driven by his circumstances, driven by the struggle he went through growing up. But the NFL teams, they don't give a fuck why he's driven. The only thing the Bears care about is that he is driven. If we want to make a case on hurt feelings, if we want to make a case on sympathy, what Rapaport said about Matt Corral was a hell of a lot worse than what was said about Jaquan Brisker. How come the media reaction was so different? How come Mina Kimes wasn't fake crying on ESPN about the dehumanization of Matt Corral? How come Mike Freeman wasn't stroking his woke pen, pulsing his fake outrage about Matt Corral? The answer, of course, Matt Corral doesn't fit the narrative. You can't make the case that the NFL is racist when they're making perceived negative comments about white players. But let me know what you think. Give me your thoughts on the opposite media reaction to Matt Corral and Jaquan Brisker. Do you think the Bears were right in firing Chris Prescott? Sound off in the comments below. Make sure to like and subscribe. Click the notification bell to receive all notifications from the channel. Best way to contact me is by email at btlkc84@gmail.com, KC_BTL84 on Twitter. I'll see you guys later.